They were making us eat some disgusting stuff like raw onions. I think it was dog food as well. He was trying to hit on every girl in our group, including the gay one. You should be aiming to be a top model. And if you're failing at that, then you just should wrap yourself in a curtain and not scare people. Hello internets, it's Irina, the Siberian who's gone international. A couple of weeks ago I made a video about Finland, telling about its pros and cons, and today I want to continue telling about my experience of living in different countries, and today's focus is going to be the UK. If you're curious to see what exactly did I love while I was living in the UK, continue watching. Let's begin. So the first thing which I really loved and appreciated being a student is how easy it was to find some basic job to make some extra money on the side when you're a student. For some reason in Finland, before me and my friends graduated, it was super challenging to find some temporal job on the side. Being a waitress, which is a very traditional way all over the world for the students to make some money, is not really an option in Finland. I mean, you can get that job if you're lucky, but based on my personal experience and on experience of my friends, it's not that easy to get a job as a waitress or to work in some cafes. The only part-time jobs which are relatively easy to get in Finland is either cleaning or helping out in the nursing homes or being a personal assistant. It wasn't like this in the UK. In the UK I searched for work twice, and the first time it took me a day because I already had a friend who was working at the Amazon factory, so she just brought me to the agency. I had a short interview, and I think in a couple of days I already started working as a packer at the Amazon factory. So the person who picks your order and then puts it in the box and ships it. I think I'll make a video about this experience, so if you're curious to find out what it's like to be a packer at Amazon, subscribe to this channel, and I think I will release this video within a month. So that was my first experience, and the second one was a few months later when I wanted to get a job at the cafe or restaurant, so I just started walking around the town giving out my CVs to all the pubs and restaurants that I saw, and back then it did feel like a lot of effort because, you know, to every "sorry, we're not looking for any stuff right now," I was reacting like, oh my god, rejection, nobody wants me. But in reality it took me just one day to actually find a place who wanted me, who accepted my CV, called me the next day, and then in a week or even less I started working for them. I was working at the airport cafe with the wonderful name Yum Yum to go. Maybe I'll make a video about this experience as well. My other friends used to work in Primark, grocery stores, some factories, at the airport. One of my best friends used to work in Pret-a-Manger, and it's really amazing. I mean, yes, you will have some basic salary, but at least it's something and you can always get it if you want it. And that's a really amazing option to have if you're a student. Because if you're a student in Finland, finding a side job is a challenge. The second thing which I loved about the UK is how international it was. The thing is, once you've moved countries once, you never feel like you belong 100% anywhere, even in your home country. But once I came to the UK as a student, I met so many people who were in exactly the same situation as me, who could totally relate to what I'm feeling, and it was the first time when I met real representatives of so many countries, and I ended up making really good friends, the closest ones being from Spain, Germany, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Latvia, Romania, and a couple of British persons, but with one of them we eventually unfortunately parted ways because during the year he was trying to hit on every girl in our group, including the gay one, and once the last one said no, he just disappeared. But that's a separate story. You end up being friends mostly with other foreigners. I don't know why. It's maybe because you're in a really similar situation, maybe because locals already have their circles established, and maybe for them it's a bit tiring to listen to you trying to speak English on a daily basis for the first time in your life. But that's fine, because once you graduate you end up having this network of people living all over the world who are really cool people with a rich international background. And this is actually what made me feel kind of like home in the UK, and at some point I was even considering staying there for the rest of my life. The next thing which I really loved about the UK, and I think it's maybe mostly girls who can relate, is that people are not afraid to express themselves. So in my late teenage years, I had a super low self-esteem and I was never wearing dresses. I thought that I'm not good enough, like my body is not good enough, and especially my legs, for me to have the right to wear dresses. And also I thought it's too daring because in Finland people don't really wear dresses, I don't know. I mean, now it's slightly changing, but still. And also I think having this Russian background has also affected me because in Russia, at least back then, I think now it's changing, but back then there was really high standards and requirements for a woman, and if you're not top model, you should be aiming to be a top model, and if you're failing at that, then you just should wrap yourself in a curtain and not scare people. And I did not think that I am a top model, so I was wearing curtains. Well, not curtains, but only jeans all the time. And then I came to the UK and the whole new world has opened to me. I mean, first of all, in the UK, when you're a student, you have a lot of theme parties. And during the theme party, you have this excuse that, well, I'm dressed this way, not because I want to, but it's a theme party, so I have to. And when you do that, little by little, you get used to wearing weird stuff and you start feeling comfortable in any type of clothes. And then also I saw all these girls of all shapes and sizes wearing whatever they want, wearing very daring dresses, and that kind of made me feel like, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. And once you start feeling more and more comfortable, and that has changed me dramatically, that has increased my self-esteem dramatically. Maybe growing up in general also played a role, but by the time I graduated in those 3-4 years, I turned into a completely different person, way more confident than what I used to be when I just arrived, and I'm really thankful to the UK for this transformation. It has made my life so much easier and I'm a so much happier person now. The next thing which I really love about the UK is their student life. They really know how to make it a truly unforgettable experience for you. I was lucky enough to be a student there before they have tripled the prices. Now it's really expensive, but back then it was okay. And the student life you get in the UK, you never forget it. When you just arrive, you have this freshers week when you have all these activities for newbies. Being an international student, you also have an International Week where they introduce international students to each other, and that's actually when I made most of my friends, with whom I'm still friends even though it's been so many years now. Then you have this endless theme parties, like school parties, Smurf parties, dress up like a nurse parties, foam parties, Halloween parties, birthday parties, and the list goes on and on and on. Then every university has this variety of sports team which you can join, and with the sports team you train a couple of times a week, and then once a week you have this event called socials. It's when your team gathers in some pub and then you drink, play some games, and then you end up going to a nightclub where the rest of the teams are coming and then you party. Also, I will never forget my initiation night. I've heard that in some universities they do some extreme weird stuff, but I think in my team it was the perfect balance. So I used to be a member of a boxing team for a year, and during our initiation ceremony we were handcuffed to each other. We had to do push-ups, first putting our face into some liquid dough and then also doing push-ups putting our face into flour. Then we had to run to some shop with all the flour and dough on our faces, ask for some porn magazines, and then they were making us eat some disgusting stuff like raw onions, I think it was dog food as well, and Brussels sprouts. And then the guys had their heads shaved. I don't know, to me it was super fun. To some people maybe it is a bit extreme, but I enjoyed it a lot. It was like one of the best nights of my life. And then another great night of my life was again with the boxing team. We won dance rivals. Once a year our university had this dance rivals event. That's when all sports teams were supposed to prepare a dance, and then we were all competing against each other, and somehow our team won, and that was like a moment of glory. It was amazing. So yeah, being a student in the UK is a truly fun and unforgettable experience. It's a shame that it's become so expensive and unaffordable, because if I had a child, I would really want her or him to experience this British student life, because it brought so much joy into my life and I've made friends for life in those 3 years. And the fifth amazing thing is how well the UK is connected to the rest of the world. I think you have direct flights to anywhere. Maybe only Paris and Amsterdam can compete with London in being so well connected. And then on top of that you have this bunch of super affordable budget airlines. And though I was not really taking advantage of that because I was a student and didn't have that much extra money, but once I did go to visit my friend in Spain, and I think I paid like £60 return for a flight to Spain. And also back then EasyJet was still operating between London and Helsinki, and that was a real blessing, because with EasyJet I could actually afford visiting my friends and family in Finland during the holidays. These were 5 of the many good sides the UK has, but of course there is no perfect country in the world, so the next video is going to be about the things which I don't like in the UK. If you're interested, click the like button, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!